Hello, everybody. We are starting week 7. What am I saying? 7. So we have 4 weeks left in the challenge. And I am so encouraged when I looked through everybody's 5-week assessment, self-assessment. It was so helpful. Thank you for doing that. Everyone is showing improvement, self-rating that they're improving, ready, willing, and able to get into these last weeks and put in the effort. You are putting the effort in, and I'm telling you what, it's inspiring, and you all are seeing the changes. Keep reaching out when I can be of support with questions. I just had a one-on-one with one of you this weekend to just kind of tease through some of the observations. That's what I'm here for. So I want you to lean into that support. All right, let's get started with maximizing power for week 7. So eating habits and disordered eating really can directly affect our energy systems being used to burn fat and build muscle. And this week we're going to focus on what current habits directly affect your body's ability to perform at its best in your fitness goals. So let me get myself a little situated here. We have been observing, hold on a second. There we go. We've been observing how smart food in your body is. Keep experimenting with meals to understand how to control and manage your energy. Routinely remind yourself of your SMART goals. Post them on your mirror, set reminders in your phone. I know you're doing your 5-minute activities as well. Lean into your accountability partners, your buddies, me, the network. You can post on there. As we discussed, outcomes we cannot control, but behaviors you can control. And change always involves competing, drives, and forces. So shrinking activities to the easiest thing to do daily will ultimately achieve what you desire. Plus, it's sustainable change. Start low and go slow. That was what we were focusing on this past week in terms of targeting fitness and looking at your maximum heart rate and setting your zone and just, kind of tapping in and how you can slow things down or, modify your workouts. Use benchmarks for effectively elevating change, assess a behavior, then use that objective data to track progress over time. Some of you are doing push-ups for your 5-minute activity, and that's a great way to track progress. Self-rating is a great way to track progress. Just keep tuning in with those benchmarks and surround yourself with your why. That's going to reinforce what and how to achieve progress. So there is a point in which healthy eating isn't healthy. And for most people, living permanently with strict nutrition rules, it's impossible. And even if it is possible, it's really often a bad idea. It can create serious disordered eating, mental health issues, anxiety and obsession, and physical harm. On a really small scale of that, kind of counting calories can really become obsessive. It takes up time. It really becomes a disorder to some degree because food becomes less about food and it becomes more about a number. Food isn't just nutrients and ingredients. Food is a meal. It's very physiological, psychological. It's there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in there. So doing so can disrupt work, kind of creating it can disrupt work, relationships, and other life pursuits. Our body is smart. Our brain is sometimes dumb. No, that sounds kind of harsh, but we're going to kind of tease out this saying. Several weeks ago, you learned your superpowers, and those are those unique collection of talents, aptitudes, and abilities. Superpowers are an action when you feel in your zone, right? You lose the sense of time. You're immersed in the moment. Performance and learning seems effortless. You feel energized, aware, and awake, and your whole self is participating, your body, your mind, and your spirit. And these things are a result of your body communicating to your brain. The body takes in information, then communicates it to the brain. So body first, then brain, okay? Body knowledge is a master power source. We think, remember, and learn with our bodies as much as our brain. Our senses lead to perception and then action. Our gut instinct leads to authentic responses. Now, our body may not accurately distinct the difference between healthy and unhealthy. Enter the brain. The brain tells our body what works and doesn't. Body first, then brain. Body smart, brain sometimes dumb. So body knowledge stamps the brain with signature actions. Instructions are coded by neurochemical and physiological messaging to move, to breathe, to sense time and space, to indicate areas of tightness and restriction, floppiness and looseness in our body. This messaging relays what is physically comfortable and uncomfortable, and that ultimately expresses feelings with actions. Body knowledge includes primary mechanisms of our flight or fight response, including relating what is painful, information linked to stress and trauma, physical manifestations or a felt sense, body postures, and our autonomic responses, which are largely those unconscious bodily functions, such as the heart rate, digestion, respiratory rate, urination, sexual arousal. Body knowledge stamps the brain with a lot of signature actions, right? Body smart, brain sometimes dumb. So hopefully you're getting a general idea of the impact body knowledge has on our behaviors. Our mind, body, and soul are complex. We're human beings. We are not machines. We are complex. So this trifecta integrates sensing, feeling, and thinking, which leads to lifestyle choices, including eating behaviors and fitness habits, managing stress, relationships, all of those things. Our body is constantly processing information. So our nervous system is that power source. It will unconsciously affect our behaviors and choices. Automatic sensations, impulses, and behaviors are interpreted and categorized. We have two categories: survival and security. So safety or threat. And our deep needs integrate physical responses, emotions, and thoughts. Whoa. I mean, we're taking a deep dive here, but let's sit in this for a couple of minutes. I really want you to consider what you may interpret as safe or a threat with a recent emotional experience. Someone's emotional expression, a head or a neck gesture, someone's speech or tone as they communicate, a friendly gesture, an aggressive gesture, a defensive gesture, or experiences and responses by way of expressions, gestures, communication, and behaviors may collectively be autonomic, which is that fight, flight, and freeze response. Or they may be automatic, a learned response. So what I'm getting at here is that thoughts and emotions can manifest as physical feelings. We sense what's up in our inner and our outer environments with a view. Then we self-regulate, we respond. This is what helps us to survive. It's what drives us to act. It's that thing that is, if we feeling, then we really don't know how to fully experience it. That feeling of whatever that feeling is equals a whole world of inner sensations and emotions. So unconsciously, we may be triggering a survival security response. And those responses are going to ultimately affect our choices and our behaviors, including health, including our food choices, our eating behaviors, the intensity of our fitness, our response to stress, to people, to circumstances. So our powerful source of body knowledge is called the enteric nervous system. Kind of getting a little bit into science here, just to communicate that this system communicates information between the gut and the brain, the enteric nervous system. Communication highway between the gut and the brain. So our gut conveys information about the body, including sensations, impulses, and behaviors. And then our brain interprets that information for safety, survival, and security. Now, these two constantly communicate and may do so without the need for us to be aware it's doing so. The thing is, we can become aware of these two communicating. The process of becoming aware can transform my, your, anyone's reality. The process of it becoming aware can ultimately transform reality. Practicing mindfulness. So really is going to help tap into our inner and outer environments and how we may change what and how we self-regulate and respond to things like emotional experiences, emotional expressions, facial gestures, voice communication, social behaviors. We can ultimately change our fight, flight, and freeze mechanisms, and we may change our automatic responses, which is super cool. I mean, this is so powerful that we have the ability to change these things that could be unconscious with just mindfulness, with being aware of our inner and outer environments. It's really powerful stuff. So let's get into how to maximize power. Feeling, sensing, noticing, and then naming. Noticing both your inner and outer environment with a view to self-regulate. It's naming that feeling and sense to choose how to respond, to choose the behavior. So maximizing power by sensing what's up in both our inner and outer environments with a view to self-regulate or respond. I did not like the texture of that piece of fruit. You know, I know that I don't like this piece of fruit now, actually, and I've been eating the whole thing actually without even being aware of what it tastes like or the texture. That's a very simple example with food. It could be, you know, with working out, you know, getting through that combo was super difficult. It was, I couldn't, it was hard for me to follow along. It was hard for me to do that. I felt confused. I felt frustrated. I didn't really enjoy it. So, you know, first recognizing, noticing that, and then naming it is a powerful way to maximize power, because then with noticing and naming it, then you can take back and, you know, take a step back and think of, well, let me kind of go low and go slow. Let me slow this down. And perhaps you can find out that maybe your footwork, you were, you know, actually hitting a cross instead of a jab. Your lead foot was the different lead. And, you know, maybe it was just, again, the footwork with going from a cross to a push kick, and just the balance, and maybe the core wasn't engaged, your balance was constantly off, or you were tipping, again, first noticing and naming, and then taking a step back, going low and slow, and kind of figuring out how to respond and kind of regulate through that. So mindfulness is a key to sensing our environments, our inner and our outer environments. This isn't crossing your legs, seated on the floor with your thumb and your second finger touching. Mindfulness can be practiced at any time. I gave you a couple of examples. It's just simply tuning into that two-way communication between your gut and your brain, that feeling, that sensing, that body knowledge, and then that interpretation, naming it, first noticing the body knowledge, and then naming with the brain. It's noticing the sensations, noticing the impulses, naming the behavior your brain interprets to do, naming that behavior as X. Oh, that actually was, poor core strength, or, a weak core. That actually was my technique, not really getting my footwork down. That actually was me eating just because I was stressed and I wasn't even thinking about what I was eating. I was just eating it. A behavior, naming if a behavior is a behavior there to bring comfort, or a behavior to avoid discomfort, or a behavior to avoid stress, or a behavior linked to trauma. So mindfulness can be practiced at any time and in any activity. It's limitless. Inner environment, outer environment. And believe me, this is a lifelong practice, a lifelong skill. And so mindfulness can be started with simply, someone could put it as a 5-minute activity. I would encourage maybe even it being a 30-second activity, doing maybe taking 30 seconds to kind of be mindful in, taking 2 minutes to notice a name, and then taking the last 2 minutes to kind of think about, how you could self-regulate or respond. So practicing mindfulness, for example, for improving muscle strength, might be focusing on that one thing that you're assessing. A list of mindful moments from the previous body knowledge slide would be sensing the movement, sensing the pull-up, sensing the breathing while you're doing a pull-up, sensing the space you're doing the pull-up in, sensing the space of your body as you're doing the pull-up, sensing the time it takes to, get to the bar, the time it takes to do 2 pull-ups, sensing the muscular tone, really tapping into the muscle. What is your lower body doing? What is your upper body doing? What's your face and, what's your neck and facial gesture doing? Where is it physically comfort? Where is it physically there's physical discomfort? What are the body expressions? Maybe the grunts, the groans, the clenching of the teeth, just sensing the stress on the body, feeling the sense, being mindful of your body posture, and being mindful of the bodily functions occurring to create the activity. Practicing mindfulness for improving nutrition might be focusing on one thing surrounding hunger cues. For example, with cravings, sensing the body movement when a craving occurs. Maybe you start wiggling in a chair. Maybe you just automatically go up and go to the fridge. Sensing the breathing. Are you starting to breathe more? Are you starting to hold your breath? We tend to hold our breath. And times when, I don't know, could be with a craving, could be stress. Sensing the space you're in. Maybe, cravings tend to happen in a certain space. Sensing the time the craving has occurred. Cravings can happen at certain times of the day, times in the moment of a certain experience. Sensing the tone of your body. Perhaps when you get a craving, all of a sudden your shoulders are raising. Maybe your neck is getting more stiff. Checking in with the physical discomfort or comfort, the body expressions, the facial expressions, the stress on the body. So again, feeling the sense, being mindful of your body posture, being mindful of the bodily functions occurring during that activity, perhaps an elevated heart rate or a growling stomach. So activities that nourish us provide necessary growth, health, and good conditions. The body is smart, the brain sometimes dumb. Thoughts and emotions can manifest as physical feelings, and practicing mindfulness of our inner and outer environments is how we may change what and how we self-regulate and respond to things. And you know, I've witnessed each of you do this already. Every single one of you have done this. And so I know you have this ability. Perhaps, you know, consider where you're not using this ability, or even actually better yet, bring it into that thing that you already are practicing it and see how you can expand upon it, kind of, you know, refine it a little bit more. So the challenge this week is going to be a power journal. You're going to pick one activity and then you're going to log about it. And logging is going to include the time of the activity, what's occurring in your outer environment, and what's occurring in your inner environment. It's a practice of mindfulness, just tuning in. What are you noticing? Noticing, naming. That's what the power journal is going to be. Your activity this week is going to begin a new 5-minute activity. So ultimately the goal with the 10-week transformation challenge has been to do one 5-minute activity every 2 weeks. So, you know, if you're right on track and you've been sticking with that, time to do a new 5-minute activity. This does not mean you're done with the last 5-minute activity. This is a practice of building in small increments through the 10 weeks. So you're still doing the first activity you did in week 1 and 2. So at this point, you've been doing 4 activities and you're moving on to your 5th activity. So you're building upon that. So you can check in with that activity you're doing, see if you can either make it maybe a little bit more easier if it was unsuccessful to do it 5 minutes each day or within a small amount of time each day. But these are some good questions to ask just in consideration of what we're talking about with maximizing power. You can check in by asking, is this activity deliberately sensing a behavior? Is it dynamically responding to a thing you sense? Or is this a practice of self-regulating and dynamically responding? So again, your 5-minute activity, you know where you're at in terms of what you can do, what you want to do, and how to simplify. So new 5-minute activity this week, that is your activity. And then your resource for this week is going to be practicing mindfulness with nutrition, with your hunger and your hunger cues specifically for a period of time. So perhaps this could be one day, if that's helpful for you, or you could track it over a couple days. Downloads are going to be provided for this activity as well as the other lessons. So just make sure you download those and use this to help you. And of course, you know, you can chat me up, post a question on the network, here, lean in for the support. That is what you invested in. And that is it for this lesson on maximizing power. Just a quick shout out to the Badgers. Go Badgers, they won their basketball game on Saturday. They are now ranked #1. Actually, I think maybe the games, Michigan State's could be affecting that. But either way, I don't know if any of you are sports fans, but March Madness is coming up. So consider that event. If you are a sports fan, like how that, you know, consider planning what you're going to be doing around that event coming up. If not, oh well, I'm just sharing with you. I'm excited about it. So way to go, everybody. Ladies, you're doing fantastic. And again, lean in when you need. Here to support. All right. Have a great week, and I'll be seeing you, if not in class, on the network.